For my Specialisms project, I'm going to be looking into how editing can be an effective tool to manipulate time and space in cinema, as well as challenging the audience's initial perception on the film's purpose. Deciding on the length of each shot, the remapping of the time frame and types of sequences, I hope to create a unique project that will celebrate editing as the tool and medium to determine the psychological and emotional effects the film can have on an audience. The film I'm hoping to make is going to be a short film that will tell the story of a 2-year journey following hitmen attempting to find and assassinate a target. The film will rely on 3 primary sequences. One of them will be focusing on an awaiting businessman impatiently waiting for a phone call. The other will be an anxious, suspicious man slowly walking home that uses a standard metric sequence, and the final sequence is a rhythmic, fast-cut montage depicting the journey the hitmen endure to find their target. All 3 will lead to the same unexpected conclusion, which has been purposefully contextualised into being the opposite of what the audience expected due to the subtext that the editing will have. I'm going to be editing the film using footage directed by myself as well as stock film. Editing's always been an element of cinema that has stood out for me. The fact that every individual frame can contribute to or take away the value of a film's tone, plot and pace has always intrigued me. An element I'll be using and exploring will be montages and their variety of modes to approach. Soviet filmmaker Sergei Eisenstein believed that a film's meaning was not in the shots themselves but in their collision. Eisenstein was one of the first 1920s Soviet filmmakers to view film editing not as a tool to be unnoticed or viewed as the term invisible art that was referred to a lot then, but instead a tool the audience should be aware of while watching the film, and experimented with cutting in certain ways. The cinema spawning from the Russian Revolution arguably pioneered the term montage, and montage is, to again quote Eisenstein, montage is conflict. He believed it was an alternate method to traditional continuity editing. The Russians would use montages ideologically, an example being the massacre sequence from his film Strike, where the shots of a panicking village under attack cut to footage of a bull being slaughtered, which is seen as a Marxist metaphor for the opinion people were treated like cattle. This method of montage, commonly now referred to as the intellectual mode of montage, is very resemblant in the death scene of Apocalypse Now. I plan on using this form of montage by cutting certain stock footage that will relate to the theme of my short film. Manipulating time has been pushed further and further in editing. In the 60s and 70s, the French and American new wave of cinema began the experiment with continuity editing, treating the traditional rules of editing with dismay and creating the term auteurs in film, desiring not to be dictated by the studios. The fearless jump cuts in Jean-Luc Godard's Breathless is a fitting example. These innovations in editing inspired many contemporaries, popular examples being the hip-hop montage in Requiem for a Dream that rhythmically flows through time. This style is definitely one I want to practice for the 2-year journey film of the Travelling Assassins. Using found footage on my own shots, I hope to compress the extensive storyline of the hired hitmen into a fast-cut, rhythmic mode of montage just like this. Some types of cuts will interestingly move to another location, time or character. One of the most famous match cuts of all time in 2001: A Space Odyssey shows how one cut can create a leap from the beginning of Primal Man's first tool to the invention of space travel. Another influence in this project is anime filmmaker Satoshi Kon. He's recognised for his unique match cuts. An example is from Tokyo Godfathers, shows a match cut being the transition to a character's flashback. As the blood drips from a pipe in an alley, the next shot shows it landing in a puddle of blood in an entirely different scene. Match cutting will be a recurring transition throughout my film, helping to connect the thematic scenes and characters. These examples I've been exploring of cuts, montages and stylized sequences are usually the type of imaginative editing that personally fascinate me more about film. I hope to use the research and inspirations that I've been looking at to create a sequential story that uses editing and montage to manipulate the audience's presumed understanding of the timing and context of the film. Thank you.